Hello, Berkeley. So nice to be here. Thank you for being here to celebrate streams, to celebrate Strawberry Creek. And yeah, it's interesting because this book about farming probably got started here in Berkeley. It's a book that takes place intimately in Massachusetts. It's a Massachusetts year from snow through harvest back to snow. But I think that I learned to love plants here in Berkeley. I had this year at Berkeley High where I could do an independent project, and I worked in a garden that became a template for Alice Waters' Edible Schoolyard. And I also sold peaches over there, and knew the pleasure of going home at the end of the market. The coolest thing about working in the farmer's market is that you get all of the food at the end of the day, and you have this bounty of going home with the trading peaches for peppers and going home and making these incredible meals. And in fact, right after this, I'm headed up to Full Belly Farm to go to their harvest festival. So it just feels like a kind of a homecoming and a harvest of sorts just to be here. Small-scale farming is kind of a funny thing to do now, to try to deliberately reforge that connection, to work against the grain of how things are going, to try to pay attention and to try to use your body to build this new ecosystem, which is actually just a version of an older ecosystem that we still need. And so this book is kind of playing with that. And it does take its title from Hesiod, and that kind of notion of the poem as a sort of an almanac or a guide to how to pay attention to the world. And it takes a quote from Hesiod at the beginning, and it says, "But why linger? Why stay in this world of oak and tree and rock?" I thought I'd tilt towards harvest a little bit in this reading because that's where we are in the year. Here we are in the abundant time. But I'm going to start just at the planting season with a poem called Elsewhere Flood. No sooner begun than it goes wrong. Cucumber seedlings frozen on the stalk, bok choy full of beetles, failures gnaw the crop. Borrowed tractor, borrowed harrow, cleaning, money for replanting, spreading traps. Last year's debt, a ditch to dig out of. 2. Elsewhere famine, elsewhere flood. Rainforest clear-cut for pasture, invasive beetles in the orange groves, a pregnant woman inhaling sprayed poison. 3. In the greenhouse, kale, more kale, outside, weather variable. Skies ADD, says Mora, as we move eggplant sprouts from 64s to 32s, shoving root hairs down, transplanting, like copying notes out from a notebook, doing rote work, piecework, on for hours. Tomatoes have a better survival rate than poems, I say, and Mora laughs. Today we move cukes and zooks with funny names, cash crops for fancy restaurants, things some patron will consume in consommé or heirloom salad. And for a moment, we're in hopeful season. Each name is sugar we can sell, snow gold, zebra, or green dragon. Apocalypto for a small planet. 1. And the radio reports how in 2050 farming Massachusetts will be like farming Georgia. All's flux. No one can say what will grow in Georgia, where maples will grow then, or whose fine taps will sap sugar from the cold in spring. Will we get syrup from the boreal forest, peaches from Massachusetts? 2. Drone strikes and opium poppies, oil spills and poison wells, drought zone, famine, war zone. 3. Artisanal, this intervention. What gift this day? 4. My inner cynic says, don't bother, this is navel-gazing. And my friend at Yale says my hunger to be near zucchinis will not save the planet from real hunger, except I remember that in the film on gleaning, the priest in his compassion says, those who glean now out of spiritual hunger also should be fed. 5. Ecosystem of yard or field or mind. These cucumbers are more art than science, more daydream than global action if we separate the two. But digging now, I feel an otherness, life, a great inhuman freedom. Here I work a plot that also grounds. Somehow all the poems I chose to read are in parts, but that's okay. This one is called Punctuations. 1. In bed, new wind trails through leaves and darkness, and our bones lean together as if knowing. But what? I think autumn's long horn. But how? All this blowing. 2. Below indigo mountains, corn, nubbly gold. 5 o'clock cool and the water choppy. Lake empty, only we splashing. For a while I fell into my breathing, seeing the horizon switch above lakeweed, no longer thinking fall is coming, dusk is coming. I am present in my own stroke, stroke, stroke. 3. Cold nights, wet mornings. We pick what lasts through frost. Haul crates between remnants. Tomatillos totter. A finch rides the air. In the field, new music. The absence of crickets. And in the Berkshires, as everywhere, right now people are having huge harvest festivals. I mean, it's a great time. And the one in the Berkshires was particularly fun. Just almost this kind of space, but just full, heaping with all of these different farm goods. So I wrote this poem, Harvest Fair. Anthropomorphic gourds on the trencher, cold local pears, undeniable chill in the air, red sweetness in fists and in clustered stars. Neo-hillbillies play. In line for the bathroom, farm people check iPhones. It's just apple picking against the apocalypse. On the grill, veal. On the board, tender cow. On the roast pig's black nose, drugstore sunglasses. Later, fiddlers and bonfire. Boys toss on a scrap pallet. Light flares on our faces. Timeless how a few couples slink off now to savor each other in cornrows, in darkness. Apocalypto with radio. But on the day that scientists announced that this past summer was the third warmest summer in recorded time, the blizzard's gaining speed and time as I trace the pike into the mountains. The DJ says some global warming. And indeed, my hands are finally warming as the radiator blows 80-degree heat on the windshield. Black ice is forming there and also forming on the road and trees and hills. I want to be off this slick road. It is hard to fathom any road beyond the road you're on, to think of summer overheating this cold world, to imagine summer from inside a mountain storm. And that the story of this blizzard is connected to summer or to carbon that's connected to Arctic melting on our injured planet is difficult to grasp. This ice is present tense, and any warming story grows distant, a story instruments of barometry tell. I am now brittle, small inside a storm. Within a tide of growing storms, I know that what I want to know is slippery as this road is slippery. I am driving headlong in the dark. I just thought I would end with, the last poem in the book. And in the book, it's called Epilogue. And in published versions, it's called Song with Hammer and Garlic. Hands everywhere now tending farms large or small, plots well or poorer. Tracts I'll never see, hands pulling onions to market, washing greens in clean water, loading avocados, squatting, unpacking, breaking to eat some lunch from home, dozing under a tree in a calm hour. May your bodies stay fed and your birds sing. May our bodies stay fed and our birds sing. I once met a man from Jalisco, home again after 10 years working the garlic in Gilroy. I once watched men hammer a stage set for a play. Actor lovers spoke from plywood perches. The world is a made thing. The world is a made thing. May those who are hungry be fed. May those who have food also hunger for justice. We bow to the work, same and not same our scattered arts, removing the stones from our soil. Thank you.